Yo, yo, yo. Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. And it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we bring you a practical solution. Some of you are still doing annual reviews, and you should know they don't work. There's data that shows they don't work. And so today, I have a great friend of ours on the podcast. His name is Alan Twigg. And he shares with us what you really should know about annual performance reviews and how you rework them and rethink them. So please listen up. I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. As a practice owner, do you do these things called annual reviews? Have you been doing them for a while? Well, you might want to rethink how you do them, because there are some things you should know about annual reviews, and we're going to bust some myths around annual reviews with my dear friend, Alan Twigg, who's from Bent Ericksen, who knows all things HR. Alan, thanks for being back, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Kirk. Always a pleasure. Happy to be back. And as always, happy to talk about HR.
Yeah. So I always joke, or I don't joke, before we hit the go button. Like, Alan's one of my favorite partners for a lot of reasons. Number one, he's really good at what he does, and so is his entire organization. But number two, this is a part of business I have no business playing in. And so HR is more complex than ever. So we regularly, if you don't know who he is, we regularly invite him back to help us stay on the rails of what you should do, should not do, what you can say, what you can't say to team members. And today we're going to be talking about what you should know about performance reviews. So give us the big picture here. Let's go high level. Why is this so important?
Sure. Yeah. So performance reviews and this whole idea, it's all about communicating how someone's doing, right? We want to, ideally, when we hire someone, we communicate what our expectations are. And through our onboarding process and all that, we tell people what we want them to do. And then, of course, there's this idea of, are we holding them accountable? Are we communicating to them that they're doing a good job, communicating to them if they're not doing a good job, and how all that works, and doing that in an effective way where ultimately we want to build people up and have them feel, understood and heard and appreciated. And at the same time, if someone's not performing, we want to make sure that we're, protecting ourselves and that we are not inadvertently causing problems for ourselves. I'll say that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as we dive into the weeds with it. But it's just this idea of, are we making it clear how someone's doing? Are we communicating the good, the bad, the ugly, and so on?
All right. Speaking of good, bad, and ugly, let's just call it out. Running a business is hard. Number two, you don't get any training on this. No one tells you, this is how you should do it. So a lot of times, if you're like me, you figure this out on the fly, or you talk to one of your buddies and they tell you what to do. Now, the third part of it is if you like people, you're really bad at this. You lie to them going, you're doing a great job, and you give them a raise, and then you fall, I guess I'm just kind of telling myself, you fall in this really unhealthy habit of having a sit down with a team member once a year and not really giving them honest feedback and just making sure that they don't quit and trying to make them feel good about this. You do it the last minute, the night before, you write up a whole bunch of stuff, and then you give what's called a hush raise. And the hush raise is, I'm going to give you a little $1 extra per hour so that we can minimize or mitigate this conflict, because they're waiting for a raise, you're waiting to give them a raise, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, how do I break this cycle? Does this sound familiar? Do you ever run into people like me?
Oh yeah. That's absolutely the common way of going. Is we're going to sit someone down and we're going to do a traditional performance review, which is where we're theoretically going to tell them all the good stuff and all the bad stuff, but really we don't always do all the bad stuff because we don't want someone to start crying, and we have to sit chairside with this person tomorrow, so we're going to kind of sugarcoat it a little bit. And then, everyone wants a raise and they expect a raise, and the annual performance review meeting seems like a logical time. So that is how a number of offices go with it. And to be clear, that is fine, with a little caveat with it, but for the most part, that's fine. There's no law that says you have to do it a certain way,
Right.
or you shouldn't do annual performance reviews. It's just that it's not recommended anymore. So to be clear, there are no laws out there that say you have to do reviews annually or you have to do reviews a certain way. It's totally up to you. But I think it's important to keep in mind that high level thing. Ultimately, the high level goal of this whole thing is all about having an employee know where they stand. So if I came into your practice and I picked one of your employees at random and I said, hey, how are you currently doing in your job? What will they say?
Right.
Will they say, geez, I don't know. I haven't talked to a doctor about my performance in 10 years. I have no idea if I'm doing good or bad. Or they might say, well, I just started here 4 months ago. I kind of feel like I might get fired at any moment because I have no idea where I stand. Do your team members know where they stand? Good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, etc. I'll bring up something called the Gallup Q12. If folks have never heard of this, good thing to Google. Gallup has this thing, they call it the Q12 core elements, and it's basically these 12 areas of business management, business ownership. And when these 12 things are in place, they boost employee retention, they minimize turnover, and they, in a sense, lead to a happier workforce. One of the very first ones is I know what's expected of me at work. So just real clear, have you communicated your expectations in your policy manual, your job descriptions, and so on. There's also a few of these that talk about feedback. In the recent past, has my boss or supervisor given me feedback? Do I know where I stand? Does it seem like my opinions count? Because again, performance and evaluation is a little bit of a two-way street. So are we asking employees what they think and how they're feeling? So all of that is big. And number 11 on the list is, in the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. Just in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
It's not even saying, I need someone to talk to me every single day or every week. It's just in the last 6 months. So these are not big, giant, monumental things. I know a lot of stuff in practice ownership can feel real heavy. Feels like, I'm already like carrying so much burden and now I got to add something else to it. We'll talk about some of the easy ways to do this whole thing without having it be a big burdensome thing that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. It's so powerful what you're saying. And there's a lot of different ways. I actually am going to check out the Gallup Q12 because that's great information. And in full transparency, I was the worst at doing these. And we changed it when I read the book Traction. It's the way we do it now, but you don't have to do it that way. You can do it anyway, but you're right. You need a regular way to onboard people and let them know how they're doing. You guys taught us this, that half of employee retention is the onboarding process alone. So I think what you're ultimately going to do is say, listen, you got to make this a system, not like an ad hoc, like whenever we need to, or whenever the team member feels like they need a raise. That's probably the worst way to do it, don't you think?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things is, don't wait for the employee to come to you. So, even if everything's fine, even if you go, so-and-so's been here for 10 years and, they're doing great, tell them. If you see someone do something good, tell them. If you see someone do something bad, tell them. Now, I will be clear that onboarding an employee and this whole idea of performance evaluation, it is more skewed toward the beginning of employment. So when you first hire someone, you got to be communicating with them non-stop about everything. And anytime you see any little thing that they're not doing quite right, get in there and correct it immediately. Because in the early part of employment, there's still kind of this, building of trust. There's still some hope. There's still, oh, this is going to be a great job and all that. The worst thing you can do is let someone go for 6 months, a year, even 2 years, not doing something the way you want them to do, and then sit down and say, hey, for the last 2 years, you've been screwing this up. That never goes over well. So get at it early on, and it will trickle down. So the hope, of course, is that you have employees who stick around for a long time. And once you have done this on the front end and you kind of get to the point where you're doing fewer and fewer, it is okay to potentially go a year or two without a big sit down formal kind of thing, because if someone's been there for 10, 15 years, they know what's going on. We have employees here at Bent Ericksen that have been here for 15, even 20 years. I don't have to do constant course corrections with them because they know what's going on. But we did all that on the front end, because when we hired them, there was a lot of check-in, a lot of evaluation, and we got them honed in exactly where we wanted them to be.
Yeah, I love it. So don't let the team member come to you. You should be coming to the team member. What are some other things we get wrong about annual reviews?
Well, so let's talk a little bit about new hires. So common question we get is, new employee, the first 90 days, how many times or what should I do in those first 90 days? General recommendation is that you're doing at least 2 check-ins, where this is, a good dedicated time, not just a passing in the hall, hey, you're doing great, thanks, bye, but a thing where you're sitting down, having a good chat with this person. How are they doing? How are you doing? And we recommend 2 of those, one at about 4 weeks and one at about 11 weeks. And that gives you a chance to kind of feel it out. And if the person is going down the wrong path, then it gives you a chance to sort of get ahead of this so that if you do need to let the person go, it's not a total surprise. Now, let's talk about this classic annual performance review, the traditional annual performance review. The theory of that is you would sit down, you'd write it all out, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, and then you meet with the person and you just unload all of this on them. And they, in theory, the theory is that they're going to hear all this and go, okay, good, I'm going to take in the good and I'm going to work on the bad, and then you meet a year from then and things are better. It doesn't work. Nobody likes the traditional annual performance reviews. Employees don't like it. Managers and owners don't like it. It takes a lot of work. And the bottom line is study after study has shown that it's just not effective. It does not have employees boost performance when you do it that way. There are also some pretty big risks with it. We touched earlier on this idea of you don't give all the bad because you kind of want to sugarcoat it. You don't want the person to cry. You don't want them to get mad at you and so on. And what that does is it creates a document where an outside observer who looks at this document, they see this and they go, oh, well, this employee was great. I mean, look, it's like all positives and maybe one negative. And so then if you, let's say down the road, you terminate this person, they basically have documentation that says they were not fired for performance issues. They were fired, and then they start making up stories. I was fired because I'm a minority. I was fired because maybe I was pregnant. They start filling in a gap. So that's where that traditional performance review, when it's not done properly, can come back to bite you. There's also a whole bunch of issues that come into play with that around bias and memory issues, because if you're only doing it once a year, and most folks are not keeping track throughout the year of everything. Right. So then, like you said, you're sitting down the night before and you're trying to think, okay, what happened 9 months ago or a year ago? You're not going to remember it, and certainly not remember it accurately. And there's a lot of different types of bias that come into play. We did a podcast episode a few months ago on this topic and some of those biases, so folks can check that out if they want. So again, the traditional performance review, not recommended. So let's talk about what is recommended. So one of the big ones that we strongly recommend is goal setting. Goal setting is where you sit down and you are looking to the future. So it's not about looking backwards at the past. We're not looking at the last 12 months and what someone did wrong. We're saying, let's look at the future and what do we collectively want to achieve going forward. And one of the starting places with that is the practice goals. What are the practice's big goals? And then how does each team member fit in with that? And then it might be something like, well, I want my dental assistants to get some added CE or certifications, and we want them to do that in the next 6 months. Maybe there's some new equipment or technology or software. We want our front office team to implement that. Maybe there's some cross training that we want to do, or just, updates or projects, those things that have kind of always been on the back burner, but let's finally get them done. Whatever it is, you lay those out and you say, you sit down with the team, you say, well, I want this to get done in this kind of time period. It needs to be realistic, specific, measurable, all those typical goal criteria things. But then here's the key thing about goal setting. In addition to being future focused and therefore kind of positive and hope and future oriented, it creates a built-in performance evaluation, because when you get to the end of those 6 or 9 months, the goals are going to be achieved or the goals are not going to be achieved.
Right.
And so it builds in this kind of built-in, effectively a performance evaluation, but it's all future oriented. And the other thing too is you want to check in along the way. So it's not just set it and then you don't talk to someone for 6 or 9 months. You want to check in monthly or every couple of months or something like that. So goal setting is big. That's one of our recommendations. We've got a form folks can use if they're a client of ours. It's real easy and real straightforward.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about doing a regular check-in, because at that point, you can change your language where it's like, hey, let me help you. You ever get stuck along the way? I want you to come to me. You do create this coach-player relationship, which is much more fun than being somebody's boss and expecting something. And you're also cultivating an environment of vulnerability where they actually do trust you. They do believe you have their back. So there's going to be times they don't hit those goals, and you want to be there for them along the way. So I love this.
Yep, absolutely.
This. Yeah.
So goal setting, that's a big one. Now another one is sometimes a big project, like goal setting or something formal like that. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it may be that you want to do that, and then in addition to that, you just do what I would just call a quick check-in. So a quick check-in would be just sitting down with someone, checking in with them. How are you doing? It can be as structured or not structured as you want, but it's really just about having and facilitating these opportunities for someone to share what maybe they need to share. We can't always expect that someone's going to feel comfortable to just come to us or raise their hand in a huddle and all of that. Sometimes those real personal one-on-one situations are the way to go. And sometimes you do these check-ins and it's just, everything's good, doing fine, happy, all is well. And that's great. If you want a little bit of structure to it, I'll give people 3 questions that you can ask in this little check-in. Question number 1 is, what fills your bucket?
Ooh.
So in your current role, with what you're doing, what is something that just you love? If you could do that all day, every day, you'd be the happiest person in the world. So what fills your bucket? Number 2 is, what is one of your top concerns? So not what are all of your top concerns, because we don't want to be here all day, but what is one of your top concerns where you say, okay, this is one of the biggest things that's holding me back from being successful. And that might be equipment. It might be as simple as their chair or their mouse. It might be interpersonal conflict with somebody. It might be a procedure and flow in the office. But what's one big concern? And then number 3 is, what is something that you want to learn or something that you want to grow into or with? So that would be something that may turn into a future goal. And maybe that's, well, yeah, I'm kind of interested in, getting my such and such certificate or my extra licensing, or I'm interested in going to hygiene school and becoming a hygienist, whatever it is, So there's 3 questions. Now, the caveat with this is, don't go down this path unless you're willing to actually follow through and
Right.
follow up and take action on this. The worst thing you could do is ask these questions, get this information, and then do absolutely nothing. If someone does come to you and say, hey, I got a really valid concern here, and I really feel like I'm not able to do my job because I'm dealing with this, and you say, okay, cool, and then that's it. That's bad.
Yeah.
Because the person has basically put you on notice and said, I'm not really happy, or I really want to do this thing, and then it never happens. So just beware that you may find some stuff out that you do need to, actually do some work on. So be careful about that.
Yeah, I love those 3 questions. If I was on the receiving end of those 3 questions, I could talk for a long time, and it would speak to something. Those are different questions that you get. Now, the other thing too, I'm sure you would agree with this. If you commit to this process of asking these 3 questions, then doing something about that, you're actually getting that feedback loop and some inside intelligence on how to improve your practice all the time. So it's not just about making team members happy. They will be happy. You'll start to put people in right seats. You're going to be surprised, because this has happened to me. I've had team members say to me in these check-ins, I want to do that job. And I'm like, well, that's a completely different department. And they're like, I think I'd be good at that. Now, I would have never guessed they would have been good at that. And to this day, I probably have 2 or 3 of them. They're the best we've ever had in those roles. And I would have never figured that out. So letting the team member tell you those things not only improves their their path, it improves your practice. They're also going to give you feedback. When you say top concerns, they're going to tell you things you can't see if you're willing to listen. This is so good, Alan. What else? What else should we know?
I'll just mention a couple fun things. I read an article a little while back that was some of the, you know how Silicon Valley and some of the tech world and corporate world, they're always kind of pushing the boundaries, like, okay, what can we try that's brand new? No one's ever done it before. So it was an article about some of these things they have done around performance reviews. And one of them isn't really totally new, and it's this idea of, the whole team evaluates everyone. It's like a 360 review. So everyone is being evaluated by everybody else. And that usually includes the doctor, dentist, owner. That is something that is an option. Some people like that. It kind of gets a little unwieldy the bigger your team gets. And there's also, I think, almost like an effect where if your team is too small, then it's almost like it doesn't work because everyone kind of knows who said what or who did what. And so, but it is something that some people like, and it can work if it's something that works. The bottom line with all of this stuff is just do what works.
Right.
There's no right or wrong, or everyone's got to do it this way, because ultimately the bottom line is we want everyone to know where they stand. One of the funnest things that was out of this article was companies using artificial intelligence. So they had an AI system that would scan every email that you send, every text message, every phone call, and it basically would evaluate your tone, your language, your friendliness, and it would give you a score based on that, where the AI is saying, oh, you're not being a team player, you're being too harsh, or whatever. And so it's just one of those classic things of like, just really on that front edge of, hey, let's try something really crazy. And so I don't know that I would recommend that, but it was just one of those interesting things. So the last thing I'll say is just circling back on this idea of raises. So sometimes people will say, well, when should I do raises? And if it's not done in conjunction with a performance review. So what we recommend is that you write in your policy manual, hopefully you have a policy about performance reviews, performance evaluation, but in that policy, make it real clear that you do not do raises at the same time that you do these check-ins or these performance reviews. So put that out there. Yeah. And then in terms of raises, it's up to you. You can say, anyone is welcome to come to me at any time. Anytime you feel like you want a raise or need a raise. You can do kind of this idea of the annual cost of living raise, 3%, something like that, and then maybe there's additional raises on top of that. You can go down a path that says, maybe we don't really do big raises, we have a bonus system. And so our raise is that we will grow this practice and we will all share as a bonus in the growth and success of that practice. It's up to you. I think it's good to bring these things up proactively as well. You can certainly check in with folks and say, how are you doing with your wage? Are you happy with that? You can always surprise folks and say, hey, look, you've been really kicking butt. I've been really happy with you. I'm going to give you a raise. The other thing, of course, with raises, just because this is real important and right now and over the last few years since COVID, is we are seeing big raises and big changes overall in the market. And especially with hygiene, we're seeing large increases. And so just be aware that if you haven't hired someone in a while, that your current wage ranges may be way out of whack. And someone may come in and maybe you're paying your dental assistants $25 an hour and this person is saying, I can get 30 easy anywhere.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of going, well, shoot, I guess I kind of have to give everyone a raise. And that just, that speaks to the whole dental world and insurance, reimbursements and all the cost of everything. And it's tough. Dentists are definitely getting squeezed right now. But that's just a few tips on raises.
I love that. I completely agree, as you have to break the chain that these are appointments to talk about my pay or a raise. They are truly done more frequently, done the right way, done systematically. They're going to become super, super helpful. I promise you, if you do it in the right way, you'll look at them as your best investment of time. And then when I don't necessarily do this the right way, but I do ask people, like, how do you feel about compensation? I want to know, do you feel in equity or out of equity? And if team members feel like, hey, look, I should get paid more, I'm like, well, let's have a conversation. It'll be separate than this, but let's talk about that. I've even said to an employee, like, you want to make more? I'm all in. Like, I'm not going to limit you, but let's find a way for that number to work for both of us. And you're only going to hear a yes from me. And so I look at those as unique opportunities. I think if an employee says, I want to be paid $1 million, and this is no joke, you should say absolutely, but let's figure out how that works for both of us. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. Because there are people in the universe who will go, listen, I have a great way to think about this. Now, that might not be likely for a dental practice for that amount, but you get the point. If somebody wants to make, I've seen team members say, listen, I could do the office managing for this office. And if I get there, I could do this. One of our highest team members that I've ever seen, actually to this day, I think she's the highest compensated non-dentist I've ever seen. She's a treatment coordinator. If I told you what she made on a yearly basis, you would just stop this podcast and call me a liar. But she said to the dentist, I'm going to be the best treatment coordinator you've ever had. And when I get there, you're going to pay me. And she did. And he would tell you, because he's the one that showed me her compensation, it's worth every penny, because she is truly one of the most brilliant. She's a behavioralist. Like, she really learned about treatment planning. She learned about, she went all the way to learn how to be one of the very best and she's actually somebody that trains other treatment coordinators. So what I said all that to say this, the sky's the limit. When you have an employee that wants to grow, you should be like the person that helps them do this, and breaking the chain between compensation and employee performance is really, really important. Now, there's a space for it, but I love what you're saying. Love it.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more on this idea of when someone comes to you with a raise, the answer is yes, and. It's yes, and let's figure out how we can make that happen. And not this idea of, oh, well, no, I can't afford that, or we can't do that, or that's not possible, or we'll never be able to pull that up. Yeah, make it a we thing. And the other thing too is it's what we would call a total compensation analysis, or some people would call it an effective hourly rate. It's where you try to put some sort of numbers around this idea of total compensation. So it's not just the hourly wage, it's the benefits, it's the health insurance, it's all of those things. Right. Because I think people get overly fixated on that hourly rate. And it is hard to do apples and apples with other other practices, even other professions. And I think that that's something we've done here with folks where maybe they might get paid a little bit more, but they're going to be working more hours or more stressful hours, or they got to be available, on a schedule basis they don't want to be available on. So all of that stuff can be a factor with it as well, and not just the hourly wage. So I would just kind of conclude, overall, it's like communicate your expectations, tell employees how they're doing, both good and bad, always communicate. And there's no right or wrong way to do this whole performance thing. It's just whatever works. So whatever works for you, whatever works for your team, check in with them, make sure that whatever you're trying, check in with them and say, hey, just so we're clear, like, do you understand how you're doing? Do you know where I'm coming from? Check in with them. And if it works, then it works. Keep doing it.
I love what you're saying. I would add one thing that I've learned too, because I often don't have a good way, or I didn't have a good way of quantifying performance and how it got better, is we implemented numbers, and that has been super helpful. So we use 3 numbers only, 0 for below expectations, 1 meeting expectations, 2 exceeding expectations in different areas. And that's been super helpful for me. And let me tell you why, because I can tell somebody exactly where they're at, like this is below expectations, and then the next time meeting expectations. And then I can say, do you want to know what it would be to have a 2? And they go, yeah, absolutely. And so we can talk about that. I like that more than a sliding scale of 0 to 10, because now you get into why is it a 7 versus an 8. But each one of us has our own way to do this. But you're right. Once you do this, you get clear with team members. You do it on a regular basis. You do it systematically. I want to add one more thing too, because I love this stuff. You're brilliant. A regular check-in, like you recommended, mitigates any challenges they have about the role. So it's more than just their performance. What you find is people start telling you way in advance before they would quit why they're not happy. So I've had check-ins where people are like, I'm not thrilled right now. I used to not do check-ins and people would go, can we chat? And I'm like, what? What's up? I have to give you my notice thing. You're like, what in the world? What are you talking? I thought you were happy, By doing this regularly, you're going to create trust, and they're going to tell you things, and you'll see blips on the radar where they're like, I'm just not happy with this. And it gives you the opportunity to do a countermeasure, proactive. I'm totally picking up what you're putting down. So now I know people are listening to this. They're going to want to know more about what you do. And I'm going to just say, if you're listening to this, like, these guys are my favorite resource in all of dentistry. I love all the resources we have, but like if you're a dentist and you own a dental practice, this is like non-negotiable. These guys are HR experts. Don't try to read up or figure out how to do this. It's state to state. They know the rules. They know what to say, what not to say. So if I'm listening to this, how do I get involved with what you do?
Yeah, easiest way to reach out is just via our website, bentericksen.com, and folks can reach out to me. They can reach out to our team. No matter where you're at, we will meet you where you're at and help you out. So if you've got nothing in place at all, we can work with you there. If you're currently dealing with something kind of tricky, you've got maybe a complicated employee situation or maybe a wage and hour problem going on, whatever it is, let us know and we can help you out. So yeah, this whole world of HR, it's tricky, it's complicated, it's state-based, it depends on how many employees you have, it's always changing. And so it's just, I think it's a really easy thing to just have somebody else do it. It's kind of like doing taxes and writing your own contracts and all that. It's just, yeah, you can do it yourself, and it's also a lot of time and a lot of work, and there's a lot of chance that something might accidentally get screwed up. And so I would also say too that there are a lot of things about HR that you just can't outsource. Like, if these check-ins, for example, you can't outsource check-ins with your team members. Maybe someday there'll be an AI system that employees actually want to talk to. I doubt that'll happen for a while, but they want to talk to you. They want to really connect with you. You need to be the one doing that. But researching and reading the bill of a new law that just passed in your state, trying to write your own policy based on that and update your employee handbook yourself, it's just, I just wouldn't recommend wasting your time doing that kind of stuff. So that's my opinion.
Sounds like a horrible waste of time. I'd rather put a hot fork in my eye. Like, it's crazy what people try to do on their own. So don't try to do this on your own. So Alan, I'm just so grateful. Thanks, brother, for being on. If you guys aren't taking notes, this is how the podcast works. We're taking notes for you. So everything we mentioned in the podcast, you're going to see. You can flip up to the show notes, Alan's information, how to get a hold of him. You can just flip up, click right on it. It'll take you right there. So Alan, thanks, brother. Hope you guys have a great vacation. He's going on vacation tomorrow with his family. So happy for you, man.
Wahoo. Thank you. So excited.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you. So stick around when we say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show podcast. We're so grateful you keep showing up. Great community, over 99,000 unique listeners, and we're going to keep bringing over 900 episodes. We got so many more to bring because we love it. We'll make a deal with you. You keep showing up, we'll keep bringing it. So until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, keep watching or keep listening to the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy your day.